And it showed that only 2 of us read the question. We're the 2 that think alike, whereas the others think like idiots.
All right, well, let's go even further and go to the message of the question, the initial question. Really need your predictions for... Yeah. Or this is early notification to consider your predictions for tomorrow. Boom.
But that's NDA. You can't talk about that.
Nope, I talked about it. So you lose.
Fired. So you're disqualified for talking about NDA.
There's one other thing that's on the line here as well. If Nalguidan does not win the entire weekend, it would mean that Gia did not predict a single prediction correct. Since we've done predictions all season long, not a single one correct.
If you want to define it that way.
Impressive in its own right.
It actually would be spectacular, indeed. Right, the game has started while we've been talking about the important stuff, so I guess let's pay them a little bit of attention over there in the Hearthstone Esports Mega Arena. And it's Warlock against Warlock. They both banned out the Hunters, and this matchup has become more and more about tempo and less about the quest as time has gone on, TJ.
Yeah. Quest is secondary if both players are even on tempo the whole game and we get to the point where they're resource for resource like the same, just trading boards back and forth. We've seen that happen a few times. But yes, it's about who can get that big swing turn in, who can solidify a board position and then end the game with Battlemaster, right? Or, something similar to that, just having a lot of stats on board. So there's a lot of other things that can happen, right? McBanterFace at any point has the option to accelerate the game by playing the Altar of Fire, right? It doesn't really necessarily give him an advantage. The advantage being if he is at 13 cards left, plays Altar of Fire, he gets to play the first Baron's Scavengers. That's assuming that they're even in the game state up until that point. But it will accelerate the game for both players, not just for him. So I don't think it's going to come out unless he just has a spare mana at any point. I think he's going to wait until he actually can get benefit off it. Once we get to the point where we've got that, he's going to get to 10 cards or less. But as for right now, we're just looking at a Netheron versus a Netheron.
Yep, and they both got raised dead. Be interesting to see if they rate it enough to get back, or if they want to try and get back giants, how they use those raised deads in this sort of cat and mouse game to find out which one is the cat and which one is the mouse. See, there's the Null. He's got 4 health. Now he's got 3 health. So now you could whack him, but he'd come back up with the raised dead. Who's got the most early stuff?
So, I wonder if Nalguidan, he's got the option to just Soul Rend Touch here, which is interesting, right? Because that can accelerate him getting towards the bottom of his deck. But right now, he doesn't need to. He doesn't have the Scavengers, instead he has the Flesh Giant. So I think he wants to make plays that are closer in line with that, right? Gaining some more health. Or taking some more damage. So, looks like he's just going to trade in, go for the raised dead, and try and get this Flesh Giant nice and cheap.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the Viper and wondering, you never trade it, or you don't trade it until you're desperate, right? Because the more times you trade, the more times you actually slow yourself down in the long run.
Yeah. Because if you trade it, then you could just draw it at any point, and obviously that if you absolutely need to find a better card, then yes. But right now, I think he just wants to take the natural draw while he can. He's got the lead on board, and also has the ability to go for the swing next turn. He does this turn in a way where he clears the board, pushes 8, and holds on to Flesh Giant.
How does McBanterFace just stop himself from dying next turn if there was a Battlemaster?
possibilities.
He doesn't have removal outside of the Soul Rend, right? I'm not going nutty here. There is no Battlemaster at the moment in Nalguidan's hand, but...
He's got a Null,
Guess he's got the Null.
but then he would still need something else. Is he just gonna die?
Well, there is no Battlemaster on the other side at the moment.
Okay.
But from where he's sat, he's going to die, right? That's
there's
always your thought.
Yeah.
But also, he's going to have the same problem again next turn as things currently stand. So yeah, he has to dig for the null. And he has to go. And the problem now is Nalguidan can reload the board, and he's just seen what McBanterFace had to do to clear that.
Yeah.
There's the clue that he's just got to load up and do it again.
Oh yeah, and I mean this is nutty. He's going to be able to play a Null plus both Flesh Giants alongside a Cult Neophyte. McBanterFace is going to flip back over with 6 mana, and his spells costing more. That is the end of the game if I've ever seen one.
And you've seen a few.
I have seen a few.
Not enough, even with Tamsin. It's getting there. But it's not
even
there.
close. There's not even any way to survive on board. Like, he would have the option to, like, alter a fire and then Bloodshard Bristleback, but he only clears off the Null, still leaves 19 damage on board, which is, yeah, a lot. And he's going to look about this every which way and going to come to the same conclusion as us. There it is. Nalguidan takes game 1 in the Warlock mirror. Felt like McBanterFace couldn't really get anything going. And this is kind of the downside of the Altar of Fire, right? When you're talking about the mirror match, specifically, and it accelerating the game for both players, right? Both players kind of are equal when it comes to what that card does, unless you can gain tempo from it the turn that you get down to 10 or less cards. It's just sitting there in your hand doing nothing for a lot of the game. So it's kind of a dead card in that regard. So just not able to get there. And Nalguidan, I think, managed that one quite well. Keeping Justine Nethron on board, not overextending into potential like Soul Rend territory. And then as soon as he sensed weakness, just dropping the Cult Neophyte with a couple of big threats and calling it a day.
And although, obviously, it's an exact mirror, and although all the decks in the exact mirror are kind of okay all against all, I think the Warlock is the weakest of the 3 when you end up with this triangle. Only by a touch, but as it were, but just a little bit. So getting the Warlock out of there is at least a medium deal in this 3-on-3 mirror match.
Yes. But now Nalguidan's going to move over to the Garrote Rogue. A lot of players have opted for the Guild Trader version or Talented Arcanist version of the deck. But still, some of the players, the best ones, are running Kazakus, and I think it's still got a ton of merit, and one of the most, I mean, in a vacuum, one of the most powerful cards in the game, especially for a deck that's not wanting to run 4s anyway. And Nalguidan, we've said it before when he's been playing, but certainly one of the most creative players with Garrote Rogue. We've seen him win every which way. I think he's also one of the best tempo players of Garrote Rogue that we've seen in America's Grandmasters. Yeah. But overall seems to have a very high mastery of the deck.
Yeah, I don't think that the Kazakus versus the Guild Trader thing was ever a matter of how good the deck is. It was more a matter of how many people you think are going to bring Warrior. I think if you ask all those people who brought Guild Trader, do you think it's a better card in the deck? On ladder or on average, I think the answer is no. But if you think you're going to bump into a lot of Warrior, and that was definitely a possibility coming into this week, although it never materialized, then I think the Guild Trader option was better. We could be sat here now in slightly different parallel universe saying how great it was for the people who bought the Guild Traders, but we're not. Nalguidan got it right, and he is playing the powerful version of the deck. And of course, He's drawn the Kazakas for the curve as well as the Octobot. It's a nice position to be in against the Warlock.
Yep. Though, McBanterFace does have the Altar of Fire. So at any point in time, McBanterFace could just say, yeah, I have an extra mana, Altar of Fire. Hits Garrotes, essentially wins the game from that point. Though that's a little bit more difficult of a thing.
That's fair.
To have to do. Hit both of them, because that's what it takes. But still a possibility.
Yep, that's a very good point. Right, Nalguidan. Just doing the thing. They're both just doing the things. Tapping, or the equivalent of tapping in Rogue. Now McBanterFace needs to make a plan because he has no pressure at all here. We'll want to save the neophyte until later.
I honestly wouldn't even mind like Bloodshard Bristleback to be on the board, but it's really hard to convince yourself to not just life tap. If that button's green, you have the mana to do it, and you don't have a full hand. Really hard to convince yourself not to.
All right, here's the altar. Survived.
Secret Passage, Cult Neophyte. What?
He would take it, though. It will slow him right down, but he would take that. It's missed all of the vital organs.
Yeah.
He's shot in the toe.
I really don't think that's a big deal. And keep in mind, like, Altar of Fire isn't just a downside for Nalguidan. Yes, he's losing cards in his deck, but that's also essentially 3 card draw for him. Like, that's just McBanterFace dumping 3 cards for him, which is not insignificant for Nalguidan, whose game plan, assuming his Garrotes don't just get burned, is to get to the bottom of his deck to kill with Garrotes.
Yeah, in fact, it's all the secret passages ever do anyway, is draw about 2 cards each. So, yeah, burning 2 secret passages and an extra card, well, yeah, they've pretty much done their job as was intended anyway.
Yeah.
Point well made.
All right, Divine Shield, draw 2 cards here. Gets a Garrote.
Prep. Might have to just burn the prep to make some space here.
Yep. Perfectly fine.
Can't play the Garrote, of course, because there's so much healing in the Warlock deck. You end up using all the bleeds up, and then the Warlock heals up, and you've wasted a Garrote. So that plan doesn't work. But this is actually just irritating from McBanterFace. Just this minion on its own right now. He's going to have to mess around dealing with it.
He can throw like a Drain Soul into it and then blast, or you can double blast.
Yeah, there it goes. Very important for McBanterFace not to take too much damage, because if he does catch those vital pieces of the Rogue deck with his second altar, he's going to not want to lose via other means, via tempo, via one thief getting good things, etc. We saw earlier in the European match that Gabby had all those bases covered when he played this matchup.
Yeah.
As the Rogue.
Still missing field contact, but with only 12 cards left. Oh, no, he's not missing.
Oh, he's got one. His 7th card, yeah.
It's just so tucked in there.
He's setting up to go next turn.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a big go. He's still got
size go.
Both Shadow Steps left in deck as well.
Yeah, so
massive pop off next turn.
I think he can do it if he calculates it now. Like, he can play the field contact that one.
There you go.
By the right name.
You nailed it.
Draw a load of cards for 0, then play the other Octo, reduce the cost of all the cards he draws, then go again. There might just be enough to get there. It's going to be close. Bearing in mind the old idiom from back in the 1800s, which is something along the lines of, if you haven't got the combo but you're not going to die, you don't have to do it this turn if you don't want to. That was from the Victorian times.
Yep.
So he might just do nothing next turn apart from draw a couple of cards if McBanterFace doesn't pressure him. But he is ready to go if needed.
And McBanterFace, to be quite honest, doesn't really have a good way of pressuring. No big threats in the hand. That's something. But is it enough? I wonder if he wants to like end this turn with Altar of Fire just to try and hit Groats. But again, the downside.
Here goes.
Brain Freeze.
Missed.
Wonder. And Hog Merchant. Useless. Yeah. So again, he just helped Nalguidan.
And Nalguidan now, he doesn't need to go, remember this, but if he wanted to, he could probably win this turn. And if he spent the whole of the last turn calculating it, he might decide to just go for it anyway. But he can stop at any point and win the turn after, as long as he doesn't use those spell damage cards.
Yeah.
That's his point of no return. What I imagine he will do now he's drawn the field contact is just have a quiet turn, draw a couple of cards, get a bit closer to the combo, and make sure he has lethal set up for next turn.
Yeah, take it easy. Nice and quiet. Settle down.
Are you mocking me?
Just a nice, easy-going turn, you know?
Yeah, just imagine yourself in the sun on a golf course or something, or the beach, or whatever you like, indoors playing Hearthstone, whatever you like to chill out doing. Just imagine that. Take a few deep breaths, and then next turn, just execute your plan.
Yep.
They're my favorite.
So easy. Now it's all set up. Really just going to have a completely empty deck. Like he's...
Yep.
Last card, Shadow Step and Prep are the last two cards in the deck. And he's fine burning either one of those.
Double contact just to be super sure. The one thing he might accidentally do is, I don't know, take 26 accidental fatigue damage. I hate it when I do that. Just all over. One neophyte from McBanterFace. I imagine Nalguidan's planning how to play around the neophyte right now.
Oh yeah? Is he?
Yeah, because his cards will cost 1, TJ, some of them. He'll be
one Garot's going to cost 2, one Garot's going to cost 1.
That's 3. He's only got 8 mana. Field contact costs 2.
Yeah.
It's a toughie.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, all he needs to do is just make sure that he has enough room for the spell damage on the board, enough health, which he held on to Wand Thief in order to make that happen. So he's got 1 spell damage on the field contact, 1 spell damage on the Wand Thief, and then we'll just need to draw 2 cards to get through the one to draw the last card in the deck, and then you shuffle, and then the second to actually pull the Groats out of the deck. Yep, that entirely doesn't matter. McBanterFace.
Yeah, he knows. Too quiet. And those altars just didn't alter anything. It was grim. Just total whiffed after I built up how important they were.
Yeah, honestly, the Altar of Fires have seemed just pretty unimpressive overall, because it's such a high risk, high reward. The risk being is you burn essentially nothing, and you get the rogue just deeper into their deck, which is exactly what they want. But the reward is you hit very crucial cards, like both Garrotes or 1 Garrote or spell damage, right? That makes it more difficult for the rogue to actually piece together the damage later on in the game. But with field contacts is also good. Octobots, right? Anything to make their strategy more difficult. Stinker Passage is not good. Usually not good to burn. The Guardian Og Merchants, Penflingers, pretty much everything that McBanterFace did burn is just not what you want to see. So, Nalguidan, 2-0 in the series. Only the OTK Demon Hunter left, and I'm liking his chances. You give me 3 chances versus any lineup with OTK Demon Hunter, I'm going to like my chances.
Okay, I'm going to sit at home for days now looking at a lineup. Right. Well, here's some cards from different games and different rules. But yeah, you're right. In this lineup, I mean, one of them is basically a mirror, and the other 2 are tried and tested okay matchups for everybody. That's how this has ended up as this triangle of, I don't know, what's a triangle of things that keep coming back, apart from aliens?
A boomerang.
The boomerang. Yep, that keeps coming back into our conversations. Good call.
Yep. Thank you.
So this is the boomerang lineup, and the OTK Demon Hunter is good in the boomerang lineup.
All right, there it is. Nalguidan obviously put in some Vipers in a few of his decks, potentially expecting some Poison Rogue, which was actually quite popular last week, but fell out of popularity going into this week just because of how easily targetable it was. The Poison Rogue existence is sort of that, peaks and valleys because everybody forgets about Poison Rogue, so they bring it. Nobody has Vipers, they get crushed by it. Then the next week, everybody expects it, so they bring weapon removal, and so nobody brings it. And this just happens to be the valley of Poison Rogue. But Nalguidan just wanting to play it safe and saying, all right, I'm going to bring Vipers just in case. That's kind of how good Viper is as a card, because at the very least, you can just trade it back into your deck. So, digging it. Yep.
And I'm sorry, I've just been distracted heavily by my boss, so that's good.
Welcome to my world.
Distracted heavily by your boss? Or the children?
Well, we have the same boss.
That's a good point.
So
yeah, he just distracts us both heavily all the time. Yep. So, something about aliens. Anyway. Simple as that. Where were we, TJ? We were talking about Demon Hunter because that's our job, because Demon Hunter's being played against the Warlock, and if you have 3 chances... I'm getting there.
Yeah, you're on a roll. Keep it up. All right.
Right.
Ooh, well, Il'gynoth's not that great in the opening hand. Spectral Sight, already in outcast position, however, is. So we're looking at one decent part of the hand, one not so decent part of the hand. I do like McBanterFace's hand. He's got Cold Neophyte to block some quest completion early, some things to do early with both Backfire and Goldshire Knoll being available.
All right, I'm back now, TJ. I've returned to the land of not being distracted by my boss and looking well and truly at how Nalguidan can complete his quest without using a Spectral Sight or an Acrobatics. Looks like he's going to have to use those things, but, so be it.
So be it.
He's not rushing, though, because there isn't any rush with this hand. There's no point forcing the issue. You might as well just take your time. As long as, I know you get Kurtus by about turn 6 or 7. It all depends when you think they're going to play a load of giants and stuff on the board. But about turn 6, you need to get it down, I guess.
Yep. And Nalguidan, because of that, because he knew that there was no rush, he just went ahead and hero powered on 1 instead of playing the quest. If you know that there's absolutely no way you're going to be completing the quest or even setting up, right? If you don't have Tusk Piercer or Sigil in hand, really there's not much of a reason to even go for the quest on 1. You might as well just go for that kind of efficient damage. And McBanterFace, sensing this, he says, all right, well, he thought long and hard about this turn because there was a reasonable chance that he wanted to play Cult Neophyte because Nalguidan didn't have any front-loaded draw, so wants to complete quest with just actual draw cards this turn. And if he had played Cult Neophyte, that would have been nearly impossible for Nalguidan to do that. So he had to weigh, all right, do I tap and further my own game plan or Cult Neophyte and really put Nalguidan behind, given his opening?
Nalguidan gets a really good hit on the cards that from the first part of the quest he's going to have that reduced Spectral Sight, reduced studies, but the bad thing that happened to him this turn is the glide is buried in the hand. That glide will not be shuffling any Warlock cards back, but the studies could find one. There's other ways of getting one. Of course there's another one in the deck, but he's going to have to self-glide most likely, and that's nice from a McBanterFace. You don't want to get glid as the Warlock here.
And that's another reason why you want to think long and hard each turn about when you life tap, because at any point you could just get glowed, get glided, get glided. And so keeping your hand at like a reasonable size, right? Not a full hand, but enough cards to where you can still keep pressuring your opponent and you're not wasting your cards. That's kind of the sweet spot.
It's like the hand size equivalent of playing around Brawl when you're playing minions.
Exactly.
Just enough minions out there to make them do it, but not enough that it hurts you.
Yep.
But here's the self-glide, because now Nalguidan's hand has just finally got too horrible for words. McBanterFace sort of, I don't know, seems quite happy about this, I think. It's irritating, because obviously he's going to get the second part of the quest done, but that's one glide that isn't going to get used on him, and now he can maths a couple of turns. Or math a couple of turns, I guess. Yeah, now he gets the license to draw cards. He knows there's only one more glide in the deck, and he knows it's probably not hand in, and so he can get away with it.
Yep.
You are defenders of a doom.
All right. McBanterFace putting his foot on the pedal.
Yeah, nearly setting up lethal.
I mean, a lot of times in this situation, we've seen players like wanting to play Kurtrus or complete it and then play it, or the threats coming in the turn you want to play Kurtrus, right? That's kind of the timing that you want to go for. But McBanterFace is a step ahead. He's sort of presenting these threats before Nalguidan has even had a chance to fully complete the quest. So now Nalguidan is going to kind of struggle. Ideally, he'd clear the board here and complete the quest, right? That's kind of what you want to be going for. So to force McBanterFace to have the reload in order to prevent your Kurtrus. But Nalguidan has, I mean, it's not nothing, right? He's got the ability to complete the quest, but he doesn't have the ability to swing the board back. And we are looking at
Time grows short.
wouldn't be lethal even if the Colt Neophyte was over to the left, right? That'd be...
No, it's only 20 to know what he... Yeah, he would be able to Mortal Coil the 1/1 at some point, but he has not enough
next
mana.
turn.
He needs one more mana, and that would only be 24.
Yep.
Pleasure doing business.
But this is going to put, like we said... Wait, McBanterFace is mad at himself. But why? Could he have
because he would like
the previous turn?
He could have set up 23. Maybe he could have set up lethal. Could he have played a null instead of the 1/1? He probably could.
No, because he needed to get the Anathema down with an empty hand, right? Or with a full.
Yeah.
I wonder.
But if he'd positioned properly here, he would be able to do a lot of damage, but it wouldn't be lethal. But maybe he feels that's just good enough. Are we missing something even more obvious than that? Because what we're looking at is like 4 damage, where you might not even make the play anyway. So there must be something more important.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Either way, he's in a pretty good spot here. Just attacking and doing nothing sets up lethal, and there's obviously other things he can do. He'll be a bit scared of his board being, attacking in and then Nalguidan healing up for 18. That's a likely option some of the time here, but we can see from where we're sat, Nalguidan has nothing, which is why this is harder to understand why McBanterFace is worried.
Wait.
Go.
Could he have had lethal with good positioning and quest completion?
Oh, yes. Yes, he could. Because that would have been...
Because he completed quest with just a life tap, which was free because he had it preloaded, right?
Yep. 23 and 3 is 26.
And positioning on the board would not have mattered, so it was essentially a missed 2-turn lethal, assuming that like Nalguidan did what he did and didn't clear the board. You can get in the habit of saying, all right, Battle Master's probably not lethal, so I'm gonna put my minions in a place where I can best play around Fellscream Blast in the future, right?
Yeah.
That's usually what you're thinking. That's usually what you get in the habit of doing. But in that case, maybe I'll have to go back and double check. But
no, it's correct. He's on 11, and he's on 11, and he could have done
the thing I'd have to double check if he preloaded the tour guide for the hero power. But he wins the game anyway, so not a big deal. But I mean, if you want to get super technical, then yes, that's why it looks like that's why he was mad, realizing that thing. But still takes the win and makes this a series after all. Nalguidan doesn't just complete the second sweep of the day, and McBanterFace still has his own OTK Demon Hunter left, as well as that rogue, with both the face hunters being banned away.
Yeah, and obviously a lot easier with that one out of the way. Now he's going to go into the near mirror, but with the Nalguidan thrown in there, presumably instead of a Viper, is my guess. Do you think that makes any difference at all to the matchup? I feel like both those two cards are kind of nothings. The Viper draws a card, Nalguidan probably just never gets used.
I mean, a 12-12 is massive in the matchup, I think.
Sure.
At any point, you can just put it on the board and then get a 12-12. Like, that's the upside.
Mm-hmm.
Enter my realm.
Yeah, Demon Hunter's not great at removing those big things, I guess, but it's a pain to set it up, and if it does get dealt with, you've used a lot of your combo in the decks where you tend to clear up with it. Say against the Warlock, then that doesn't matter quite so much, because you get a bit more time. But yeah, definitely give him the edge.
All right, looking at these hands, McBanterFace has Tusk Piercer Sigil, incredible preloaded card draw, though Nalguidan has just like, you know, tradable on the right into Spectral Sight in outcast position. Both hands are just entirely draw, which is good.
This is going to be a quick one. This is going to be a very quick one. Could come down to who gets the best reduced cards from the stages 1 and 2 of the quest.
I mean, though we've seen when both players have a ton of draws, yes, glide is a big deal. And then secondly, if you use all of your card draw in the early game and both players are completing their quests super fast, you throw in glides and things like that, we've seen multiple times throughout the past couple weeks, players running out of card draw once Kurtrus is online. And then it becomes a top deck war. It's the most bizarre thing, like the most bizarre scenario I've ever seen, but it does happen.
And killing all day always wins those matches. Apparently, that's what we've learned. When they both have 4 cards left and you've got to just keep drawing, it's killing all day comes out on top.
Yep, not in this semifinal though.
It'll be interesting to see if that happens again. It is very hard to get the Kurtrus down without getting glided, apparently. It doesn't feel that hard when you play the deck in practice or on ladder, but from what we've seen, it seems kind of tough sometimes. So McBanterFace, the reason, what you just said, McBanterFace is taking so long over this is, of course, committing to using an acrobatics has serious repercussions later on.
Yeah, he's going to use his tradables for quest completion, which will just... Oh, wow, okay.
Time grows short.
Can't go for the double quest completion. That's just a little bit too greedy.
Right. Using every moment of his available time to make sure, presumably not just this turn is planned out, but future turns, what he's planning to do overall with this Spectral Sight.
Yeah, Spectral Sight could end up being blocked for quite some time. That's like the one downside here. But finds a pretty good hand on the other side as well for quest completion. Has Guild Trader tradable, has the Tusk Piercer loaded up to get that Persistent Peddler. Now McBanterFace is his turn to try and go for efficient quest completion. Difficult part here is McBanterFace is going to be a step behind unless he can kind of double up or find a glide to glide away his opponent's Kurtrus.
Demons?
Yeah, absolutely. Feels like about turn 7, the amount of drawing that has been going on. McBanterFace has that look of he's about to do something that he doesn't want to do, but feels he's being forced to do.
I think he wants to like save double jump to potentially pull glide next turn. Mm-hmm. Right?
That makes sense. That absolutely makes sense.
So he gets 2 draws here, 1 draw here, and then 1 trade here. And then saves double jump. Okay.
Oh, Nalguidan. They've both got this spectral sight kind of that they're being so greedy with, but trapped with things to the left if they don't want to play, and sitting there at 1 mana. Desperately want to use it after their Kurtras on the left-hand side of their hand.
Pleasure doing business.
All right, he gets there, kind of.
Yep.
And McBanterFace does not have a glide at the moment. He does have a studies, and he does have a draw to come.
Yeah, so looking at the remainder of his deck, he's got 1 I-Beam, 2 glides, and 1 spectral sight as far as cards. So it's a 50-50 whether or not he does hit glide from the double jump. He's going to go for
Here
it.
he goes. Rips it.
So now he's got to think about what cards he doesn't want to add back to his deck. Card draw at this point is good in the deck. So Crimson
problem
Sigil
is
fine, double jump fine.
Yeah, and the problem is most of the things that he would cast here end up drawing him a card if he's not careful. Like,
Demons.
I think he just plays the glide. Maybe he plays a Sigil, I don't know. I think he just plays the glide. He wants to get rid of the Arcanist. He's seen the Killing All Day games where all they drew was Arcanists and stuff. Wow. So literally going for highest density of card draw possible, and who cares about the combo? That does make some sense.
Yeah. The one thing we haven't seen in these situations is the player actually drawing the Kurtras right off the glide. It doesn't happen. Oh, McBanterFace! Oh no! Okay, what was the percentage for Nalguidan? Let me look. He had Philosophy, I-Beam. He had both I-Beams, 1 glide, and 1 spectral sight. So it was what, 1, 4, 1, and 5. So much lower chance overall.
Just for a moment there, it was almost like the players could see each other. They're both having a bit of a smile about the situation kind of simultaneously. And that's left Nalguidan in obviously a real hole here. He's got about, from what we've seen before, he's got 2 or 3 turns to find his Kurtras to have any chance.
You look like you love a good deal.
My quest, my revenge.
Yep.
Which sounds like a lot, like it feels like the wrong number, but just historically, from the huge sample size we've had here in the Americas region, you do get a bit of time to draw your Kurtras.
Yeah. Much different, like we've said, from both of the situations we've mentioned previously of players running out of card draw. If we look at McBanterFace's remaining deck, he's got Illidari Studies for potential, Sigil, which is an immediate, double Spectral Sight, and Acrobatics, and 3 tradables. As well as the double jump in hand, which could pull 1 of the Spectral Sights. So Nalguidan needs to... Kurtras needs to be playable next turn for him to even have a chance, I think.
So does he take 2 more cards here from this Acrobatics? I think he needs to.
And drop a Molarg? He's still got another...
Yeah. Yeah.
I grow impatient.
Doesn't even have anything for the Tusk Piercer to pull anymore.
Yeah. I think he's so desperate. I think this just makes sense. He hasn't got any card draw in hand, or maybe there's an argument the other way. Oh, gosh. He could just lose this turn. Now he's put the Moarg in play, of course. To some draws.
All right.
I see.
Let's go.
Going.
Spectral Sight.
I see.
He's going.
No discounted Moarg, but there's a Moarg on the other side of the board.
Yep. He had a chance here of... I think with runner, he could have got a lethal. Given that he's got 8 damage in attack on the board as well.
Yeah. Skull? Okay.
What would you like to do with your 5 mana this turn, TJ?
That's a lot of discounts.
Alas, poor
So
Warlock.
much.
Time grows short.
Still a Glide in Nalguidan's deck, though.
You know what else is still in his deck? Kurtrus.
Kurtrus is also still in his deck.
Can't believe we came so close to seeing another Kurtrus off where they're just both stuck in the decks.
Demons.
Trying to work out if McBanterFace has got guaranteed lethal next turn here. He can dump the entirety of the right-hand side of his hand and then play Glide.
Okay. He could, yeah, he could just draw back what he has, but looking at the remaining cards in the deck for McBanterFace, Fellscreen Blast, Oganoth, Persistent Peddler, Acrobatics is really the only card draw. It gets 2 draws off the top here. I-Beam. So Nalguidan still hasn't played Kurtrus.
Right.
So like there's not like this rush to get things going.
Another happy guilty.
Yep. Oh, there it is. Don't worry. Chalk it up. It's 2-2. Assuming McBanterFace doesn't do something heinous here. And he's going to be 1 game away from the final of the playoffs.
And also just a clarification for the last game. Shout out to A-Bar for going back and looking for us. There was no preloaded tour guide hero power for the Warlock, so it's still a mystery what McBanterFace was so upset about. It was probably something small, but hopefully he explains it to us after the match, but it wasn't like any sort of missed 2-turn, potential 2-turn, or anything along those lines. So
It didn't look like something small. Maybe he thought he missed the 1-turn lethal. That actually seems more likely than any actual miss to me.
yeah.
Because we couldn't reconstruct it, and we're geniuses. So what chance would McBanterFace in the heat of the action in the baying stadium of fans have?
Great point. Great point, as always, Neil.
Thank you.
All right. So this is what it comes down to. Garrote Rogue for McBanterFace versus the OTK Demon Hunter for Nalguidan.
Yep, and we see this more and more. It's all about, can the Rogue tiptoe around the Glide? Can the Demon Hunter threaten the Glide without actually just getting beaten up? Sometimes, if they're not careful and they try too hard to set up a Glide, the Rogue can just go wide and kill them. And it's a bit of a race. The Demon Hunter has about 8 turns. The Rogue has about 8 turns to get their respective jobs done. But I think as Rogue players are getting better at playing against Glide, this matchup is becoming very, very close once again.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yep. I think so. I do think that usually the Rogue just tends to go slightly faster, but Glide is that X factor that we can't forget about.
I mean, the stats say that Rogue just gets murdered in the matchup. I just don't think that is true now. Those stats are historical stats included, but as players have got better, I think that I would rather not be the Rogue. I would rather be the Demon Hunter. But
So I think that if we, this is going to be up in there with some of the stupidest things that I've ever said.
Awesome, let's go.
If you ignore that Glide exists, then the matchup is Rogue favored.
No, I think that's true. It's a very... We've definitely said less relevant things occasionally in the past, pretty sure.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't very relevant, you know? I tend to expect that more from the European broadcast, to be honest. So I'm disappointed in you. But to put it in a list of the stupidest things you've ever said...
I know, that's bold. Because I've said a lot of stupid things.
It's a good list, TJ.
All right.
Good list.
Well, we can't ignore that Glide exists here today.
Mm-hmm.
Because Glide exists and it's in Nalguidan's hand. The rest of his hand? Double I beam. Not... I mean, it's kind of he's kind of got a fleet going on here with winged things in the portraits of these cards, right? It looks
really
quite
has,
menacing.
yeah. It's given McBanterFace a tough decision because his opening hand is got none of the things that Rogue wants in it, apart from the swindles, which he doesn't want to play because he wants to keep his hand small because of the thing we talked about with Glide. But he's got to dig to find things. Also, his job is to draw cards because he's a rogue. So he did end up swindling away and still, at the end of the turn, has none of the cards that Rogue desires.
Yeah.
But he is down to 21 cards in his deck after one turn.
Yep. Hang on. Just going to hero power. Really not much reason to do anything else because if he were to like trade into an outcast like a Spectral Sight or something, he wouldn't even be able to play it this turn.
McBanterFace would have preferred to hold on to these neophytes, I should imagine, but not forced into it, but with the hand he's got, it makes a lot of sense to just get it out there, keep the hand size small and put a little bit of pressure on because he's not going to do it any other way. Wants to buy a bit of time to get a good secret passage to get some of those cards in a couple of turns' time.
Demons?
Also, really suspicious that Nalguidan's done nothing. So McBanterFace might understand there's a flying army of winged up against him.
What are his options? That's what I'm looking at here. Like McBanterFace, even if he wanted to, can't really play around Glide that much.
Yeah, I mean he can play a neophyte. Great. Or I guess that means that he probably doesn't passage, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if he would here anyway.
Right.
Only 2 mana left available. He could just go for Colt. Does
he want to throw anything away? Does he want to like neophyte and then kill his own neophyte? But then his opponent doesn't get forced into gliding, so that's no use either. You want to at least force them to do it.
Yep. So he's just going to play for tempo and play around the glide. It's tough because also he didn't really give himself much information because he played the Colt Neophyte last turn, so Nalguidan's hand could be a lot of draw. It's just tough to use draw in the face of a Colt Neophyte.
So he's making sure that... I don't even know. He's got rid of the Orc Merchant, which is just going to get picked off, but it does stick. And then he gets a Neophyte again. It's horrible. Not the play, just his situation.
Yeah, I understood. Oh. This is not the juice.
Well, if he Neophytes and Org Merchants it and gets Glid, his Neophyte's quite sticky and he gets a bit of damage in.
Yeah, he's just going to go for the Secret Passage and just try and keep his hand small but still dump cards from his deck.
Yep, seems reasonable, and this doesn't help his cause. He's recalling what's in his other hand. That's why he's thinking, I think, because he's like, Octobot, do I want it out there? What's in my hand? Who am I?
Oof. Contra Mana Biscuit. Oh, okay.
Oh no. Fire Sale. If he gets glid, that will mess with any... Has he got the... I assume he's got the Kazaka's version. He hasn't. He's got the Guild Trader, so he's allowed to take a fire sale.
Yeah.
I shall let him off.
Nalguidan's still just going slow. Like, McBanterFace is doing a great job of playing around the possibility of the glide to an extent, but also continuing to just get through his deck and disrupt Nalguidan's game plan. So Nalguidan, like, sure, can hold on to this glide to scare McBanterFace all he wants, but every turn, if McBanterFace is just playing a couple things and drawing a couple things, McBanterFace comes out on top of that exchange. Nalguidan does need to complete his quest to win the game, or else McBanterFace will win via combo.
Yeah, and glide me and I'll hit you for 8. A fair swap that McBanterFace is offering. And not one that favours Nalguidan. He is going to have to clear these, like you say. Nalguidan also can't afford to be too ridiculous with the glides. Like, he's got the Il'gynoth. He needs to glide that back in at a time... He doesn't want to redraw the Il'gynoth, preferably, before he's played the Kurtrus. So gliding that back in doesn't really suit him in a lot of ways. Which boils down to everything you said. Needs to complete the quest, which he's not doing. I assume that McBanterFace won't play this Arcane Intellect unless he absolutely whiffs. He's absolutely whiffed. The problem if you play the Intellect is... then the glide does become a real nightmare.
Such a weird situation to be in. Like, knowing, like, in your heart of hearts, that glide is there in outcast position, and not really being able to do a single thing about it.
You know what he could have done here, and this might be me going off on one.
Okay.
He could have played nothing after he did the trade to make it look like he had a good hand, and then get the glide, which actually would give him 4 new cards that had to be better than what he had. That's what I'd have done.
Ooh. Nalguidan not going for the glide now, though. Still going to hold on to that in outcast position. Wants to wait for, like, a field contact turn. Or something to give him, like, a really good idea about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, currently it's fairly obvious that McBanterFace is dominating, and that's kind of what I meant when I said I wouldn't have played anything there personally. Try and get him to glide you, make it look like you've got the stuff.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Cool. Glitter, TJ. That's my style. Right, McBanterFace, another tricky decision. This is what you were talking about a moment ago. If he goes for a full-on contact turn here, then he'll draw a lot of cards, and it gives Nalguidan the option to do the thing.
So many options.
What if you do nothing?
It's quiet.
You do nothing, you get glid and lose your contact, right?
Probably.
Fine.
So I think he has to thin his deck out as much as possible so that after the glide, he can finish it off quickly with a second contact.
That's an upgrade. Probably.
Choose soon.
Okay. So yeah, this is what he's doing. He is trying to balance all of the things we've been talking about through the whole game with enough threats on board that Nalguidan can't just glide. He has to do other things. And even if he gets glided, there aren't that many cards left in the deck, so there's a decent chance of recovery with the things that are remaining, especially there's shrouds and secret passages and things like that going on. And all the time, all this sort of little dance has meant that Nalguidan still hasn't completed his quest, which is, not too bad. But now the game begins in earnest, and it's going to be a sprint for the finishing line.
Yep. Nalguidan still going to be a turn away from Kurtrus, so still realistically 2 turns until he kills. McBanterFace hits, honestly, pretty good stuff. Secret Passage, both Octobots and a Shroud. I think it's reasonable to assume that he could set up a two-turn lethal himself.
Yep. Just to point out, Nalguidan has got glide number 2, kind of on the left. But I don't think McBanterFace can play around that. He's not to know that, and it would be stupid to, unless he's got an amazing tell from the playing of this weapon, it would be stupid to assume the glide is there after your opponent's just drawn 5 random cards.
Yeah.
So many options.
It's so difficult, like tiptoeing around, working out whether you want to draw cards or not, and what to do with your secret passage if you get too many cards. But like I say, I think you've got to assume the glide isn't there because that's what the maths assumes, the mathematics.
Can he secret passage here and hit enough? It doesn't feel like it, right? If he hits field contact, Shadow Step. If he hits Fire Sale or Guild Trader, you can trade them away, and that's effectively card draw, but it's not thinning the deck. It's just making his hand better.
Choose soon.
All right, he's going to go for it. I think he might just be feeling the pressure of the time, so...
Shroud, okay. Prep Shroud?
Prep, throw that prep away. And then do a couple of trades with your tradey mates. And then rope, maybe?
Another happy guildie.
Nalguidan can't do the glide this turn without gliding away his own Kurtrus. So, Banter, if he can get it done next turn, which he probably can with double Octo and a Contact and a Shadow Step, has got lethal next turn?
Yep, this is one of those play the Kurtrus and pray you're not dead. McBanterFace is just going to, he knows that this is just going to be Kurtrus and that's it, right? He's just going to look at his hand and say, all right, can I do this? Last cards in the deck are Fire Sale, Guild Trader, Garrote, and Brain Freeze.
There's nothing he could do, right, to slow this down. I think McBanterFace has got this. Everything's going to be reduced. He's got enough to draw 3 cards. He can also reduce things again once he's done the first reduction.
Quiet.
He only needs to draw 4 times. He's good.
As long as he doesn't mess it up right here at the finish line. He should have enough. He also needs to make sure that he holds on to a draw. Last 2 cards are the second Garrote and a Fire Sale. Who's going to take the reduction now?
He's got the board space. He can remove things on board. He's got the spell damage.
Yep, and then Penflinger and Brain Freeze are the last 2 draws. So now it's perfect mana. Garrote, Brain Freeze, and that's going to do it. McBanterFace completes the reverse sweep. Denies Muzzy entrance into the World Championship for now, and will face him straight up in the finals.
Yeah, we're going to get to see how it gets done. They're going to have to earn their spot in the World Finals, like it should be, in fairness. And McBanterFace, he's denied Muzzy once, now he's got to deny him again by taking him on head-to-head. And it is going to be that battle of the standard lineup versus the lineup that's there to beat the standard lineup. And so far, over the course of Grandmasters, it's been the standard lineup that's actually been winning that battle. Because it turns out it's the standard lineup for a reason.
It is the standard lineup for a reason. That's right. It seems to be coming down to that in the finals for even the other regions. Actually, the finals for Europe was kind of like standard-ish versus standard-ish, so I guess we can't really say that. But and standards come out on top, no matter which way you slice it. But, you know, heck of a season for Nalguidan. Still able to get that top two seed, make it into the top 4 of playoffs, second time in a row. Wasn't able to defend the crown for Season 1, but he's still going to the World Championship, so I know he can't be too upset about it. And now he gets to sit back and watch what is going to be, what I assume is a heck of a final. Probably one of the most storied players in America's Hearthstone esports history versus a true newcomer. in McBanterFace. So I'm excited. This is how I kind of wanted things to play out at the very beginning of the day. It's also what I kind of sort of expected to play out in the very beginning of the day, if we're just looking at matchups as a whole. Very cool to see, Neil. Very cool.